Welcome back to the Heater Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Heater, your one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs. And we are back with another installation of this Lineup Builder Tool series where we're showcasing this DraftKings Lineup Builder Tool I've created. It's great for hand-building lineups. You can find it on my Patreon or my Etsy. It's $15 for the whole season on Patreon. Or on Patreon, I'm also offering just a week trial for $5. If you like it, great. You're going to get a promo code to take that $5 and apply it directly to the Lineup Builder tool. So then you'll just have to spend the $10 more for the rest of the season. Or if you did it, it's only $5 wasted. You move on. Not a big deal. Also on Etsy is also available. Exact same tool, just another platform if you prefer that one. So that one's for $15 as well. But yeah, today we're going to look at the Week 4 main slate. We're going to break it down a little bit. I have this tool set up. If you need a little bit more guidance with that, there's a YouTube tutorial out there on my account that you can look at. I went into a little bit more detail last week. This week, I just kind of want to talk meat and potatoes and get us in and out. But yeah, if you have questions, by all means, put them in the chat. And I will always try to get back to you on anything you ask. This week, if you look at the top here, these 5 games are highlighted, what I consider to be the top games. I'm basing that off of their over-unders. So these top 5 games, the highest over-under of the week for this main slate is the Rams versus the Colts, which I think is going to be a great game. It's 49.5 point over-under. Favoring the Rams by a line of -3.5. We got the Ravens and the Chiefs, which I think is going to be the best game of the week as far as actual football entertainment. At 48.5, favoring the Ravens -2.5. The next one, another 48.5. This one is being projected to be a Buffalo Bills landslide over the Saints. I do think this is going to, there are some key players we can get out of this, but I don't think this is a game we want to actually watch. Maybe just hold our nose and play a couple players. The Raiders versus the Bears, 47.5 over under, which I think is modest. I think there's a good chance this game, neither of their defenses have looked very good lately. This could become quite the shootout. And then lastly, the 49ers and the Jaguars at 47.5. And then just one more team that I would consider would be, or I guess these next 2 games, the 6th and the 7th, top over-unders would be the games that I might consider. Detroit Lions versus the Browns. I think there's some key players in the Lions that you could use for GPPs. And then Washington, Atlanta. I do think Washington is going to roll Atlanta again this week. And I think they will do it through a couple very condensed plays. So those are all things that I think are usable. Another sneaky game is the Bucks and the Eagles. I do think that's going to be a really good back and forth game. Maybe not as high scoring, but there could be some definitely good leverage plays out of that game. Specifically thinking like Saquon Barkley over some of these other running backs, or definitely Bucky Irving. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about all that in a minute. When we look through this slate, I've already picked a couple of my key plays here, but we will write our top plays together. But when I look at this slate, the top positional values, the quarterbacks that stick out to me right away are these top 4, and this just happens to be my top 4 as well. So I do have it in a different order than over there. My top quarterback of this week, I'm going to roll with Marcus Mariota again. This one is almost locked into my lineup at this point. I think he gets you good savings. I think they're going to have to control the clock. I think he's going to run again. And I think he's going to have a very condensed target share with Debo and Zach Ertz since Terry McLaurin is out. Drake Maye is another good selection. I think he is just too cheap for his price tag. He's at $5,500 salary, and as you can see, I have him projected for almost 21 points. he's been doing that consistently. Carolina's not a good team. I know that they just beat the Falcons last week 30-0, but I think they're going to come back down to earth. We didn't get into Marcus Mariota's number. It's only 5,000, so I do think you save a little bit. I think that 500 is why I have him above Drake Maye, because I think you can spend that on some other key spend-up players later, and you'll, at least for cash, I think it's a good option. Caleb Williams, he's too cheap as well, 5,800. It's going to be a shootout game. In cash, I wouldn't consider Geno Smith, but I do think if you wanted to take leverage off of Caleb Williams, actually, I'm looking at my things here. Geno is a higher roster percentage than Caleb, so maybe you just stick with Caleb. Anyway, and then lastly, Jaxson Dart has been given his first chance to start. He is going up against the Chargers. Not a great matchup for him to start, but he's so cheap that if you wanted to save, I'm okay with it. Because at 4,500, all he needs to do is hit about 13, 14 points. He can run a little bit. It's very possible he could get that. I don't think I'm going to be going there just because I want to see how he does first, but I would not fault you if you decided to go that way. For running backs, Christian McCaffrey is my top choice, and I have him locked in. There's nobody else that's healthy in San Francisco, and he's been getting a huge workload. Yes, he's 8,500, but if you look at his weighted opportunity score compared to everybody else, come over here, look at this. If I were to sort by weighted opportunity, he blows away all the other running backs. Like, I have to do it. So I have him locked in. I'm going to keep him locked in pretty much until they finally raise his price up to like 10K or something like that, or he stops doing what he's doing. But every week, week in and week out, he's doing great. I think my next second option would be Omarion Hampton. I think he is going to be too cheap this week. He's going to have the Giants are hard to run against. That's the only downside. But I think his roster percentage is just going to keep climbing, and that I think most of your cash competition is going to have him locked in. So it's kind of a free space at this point. Some people are really interested in Cam Scatterboo. I definitely wouldn't play them in the same game since they're playing each other. And between the two, I feel like Hampton's going to have a better game than Cam. So that's the way I'm leaning. Once again, wouldn't fault you if you felt otherwise, because a lot of people will play Scatterboo. James Cook is my third choice. He is living up to his contract this year. He's doing awesome. And the Saints, it's going to be one of those games. The only fear I have for him is he might get pulled because they don't need any more points. They pull him at halftime because they're blowing out the Saints so bad, or something like that. But if that's the case, he probably already has a touchdown or two. So in cash, I think he's a good safe bet. Once again, maybe somebody that you will fade in your tournament lineups, but for cash, I think he's okay. Then my last pick, Jonathan Taylor, if I can spell. Oh my goodness. There we go. Once again, harder matchup for him, but he's been so effective, and I think he's the next best option. He's a cheaper alternative to Bijan and has pretty much the exact same weighted opportunity score, slightly better. And for cash, I think he has a safer floor. So wide receivers, I also have Puka Nacua locked in. So he's already in my lineup. I will make some tweaks, but CMC, Puka, Mariota, those are my three that are locked in already. He's just been receiving so much of the target share. It's absolutely crazy. And I do think the Rams are playing the Colts. I do think this is the week where the Colts come back down to normal. I think the Rams win this one pretty decisively. I think Sean McVay will know what to do, and the way they're going to do that is through the air. So, Puka Nacua, easy choice for me. My second option, Jakobi Meyers. He's going to be a very popular player as well, and they just will not raise his price tag. So he's at 5,400. It's going to be a shootout match, I'm projecting, and the Bears can't stop anybody. Jakobi Meyers is going to get some points, really safe option, and saves you some money so you can get up to Christian McCaffrey and or Jonathan Taylor. Chris Olave is one of those picks that so that's the game. Buffalo, New Orleans. That's the one Saints player, other than maybe Juwan Johnson, that I would play. Once again, he's too cheap. They're disrespecting him, and he is tied with Puka Nacua for targets, the most targets in the NFL right now. So at 5,100 in cash, it's a low floor play. It's very easy. Or a high floor play. I said that backwards. High floor, maybe a low ceiling, but he will get you some points. He will not fail you, outside of watch him get another concussion. Now that I said that, sorry everybody. Number 4, Keenan Allen. It doesn't matter how old he is playing out of his mind right now. He's reconnected with Justin Herbert, and he is still too cheap. I'm going to go a little faster through these other ones. Other options would be Drake London, Sterling Shepard, because of the with Mike Evans being out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then I got, if you're trying to save money, we're getting lower in my list, so I don't think this is necessarily the best option, but if you need to save money, Parker Washington, with De'Ami Brown being injured for the Jaguars, is a good possible choice. Rome Odunze, he's been doing it so far, so why doubt him? Well, I don't know. He's getting a little bit more expensive, so it's getting a little bit more risky at 6,300. That's why he's a little bit down my list, but I do think he's still a good choice. Trey Tucker, he did it last week. Couldn't he do it again this week? I mean, he's not playing Washington secondary, so I don't know. That's why he's so far down the list. And then A.J. Brown. I do think A.J. Brown is someone that can definitely do it. I think they're going to, with the Eagles having to play the Bucs, I think the Bucs are going to try to make them throw. That's what they saw the Rams do successfully, or almost successfully, which means A.J. Brown will get involved. For tight ends, I think there's a couple options here. I think Tyler Warren is your best option. Once again, that Colts Rams game. But if you need to save a little bit money, I think Zach Ertz is huge this week. Definitely with Terry McLaurin been out, he's going to be a condensed target share, and Mariota likes him. Like they've had success in the past. Whenever Mariota tends to start for the Commanders, Ertz tends to get a touchdown. So Brenton Strange, once again Jaguars player, and then lastly Juwan Johnson. So all these are salary savers. I don't have Brock Bowers on this list. I do think Brock Bowers is going to have a big game, but I don't think you need him in cash. For special teams defense, this is kind of the last spot I tend to fill out for cash, so it's whatever fits. But these are some teams that I think are good options this week. The Texans playing the Titans. The Lions playing the Browns. The Titans are just a good salary saver because the Texans' offense haven't been great. But I think the Texans will win, but the Titans might get you enough points to make it work. Eagles. And then lastly, Chargers. As far as leverage plays this week, I have 2 running backs, Bucky Irving and Ashton Jeanty, both as leverage plays off of any of the elite players. So my thought is, in tournaments, you can fade Christian McCaffrey, you can fade Bijan Robinson, you can fade Jonathan Taylor, definitely fade Omarion Hampton or James Cook, and easily just swap over to Bucky Irving or Ashton Jeanty. I think they both have good possible game scripts this week, and will have a lot less roster percentage. And then my last leverage play, I already mentioned this, but Brock Bowers, leverage him over his other teammates, whether that's Trey Tucker or Jakobi Meyers. I think Brock Bowers will have a big week. For my top dart throws, I have Darnell Mooney, the one Falcons player I'm kind of comfortable playing this week, because we just saw Trey Tucker go for 145 and 3 touchdowns against this Commanders secondary, who is injured and not doing so hot. So I do think that this is a good bring back play and a potential to save some salary if you're playing some Commanders players. Another possibility, if you're looking to save cash, Christian Kirk had a pretty legit role in the Texans offense. Once again, not a great offense to be using, but if you need to save money, that's a possible dart throw. And then lastly, with Terry McLaurin being injured, I do think Luke McCaffrey is a great way to save some money if you were need a stacking partner off of Mariota and putting another player in there. So that's a possibility. And yeah, if let's build a couple little lineups, or at least talk through. Oh, hold on. Let's see what we got here. So I built a couple cash lineups just to start. This would be what it would look like if you had a Drake Maye lineup. I don't like this one. I'm getting rid of that one. So the two that I've kind of built as possible things for people to see are one with a Drake Maye quarterback and one with a Mariota as quarterback. Other than that, they're pretty similar. So this is really just a 2v2 switch. So I have Drake Maye, Omarion, Hampton, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Jakobi Meyers, Chris Olave, Zach Ertz, Keenan Allen, and the Titans defense. So this is kind of where I'm at on Saturday night. I might switch it up a little bit for the morning. I do lean a little bit more towards this Mariota lineup, which is Mariota, Omarion Hampton, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Chris Olave, Jakobi Meyers, Tyler Warren, Keenan Allen, and the Titans. Basically, why I'm leaning more this way is I trust Tyler Warren and Marcus over Zach Ertz, and I think that the difference between Mariota and Drake Maye is very negligible. So, Mariota scored 21 points last week. Drake Maye, I feel like he scored like 22, 23. So it's very comparable, whereas I think Warren's going to have a huge day, and Ertz could, but is a little bit more risky. So that's kind of where I'm falling with cash. One other thing I wanted to do this week that I didn't do last week was, here, let me get rid of this one. I was messing around a little earlier. Was just kind of show you a couple stacks that I thought would be interesting to go with. I'm not going to build the whole lineup, but I'm just going to put the stacks up here for you. So one stack that I think could be really sneaky with everybody buying down at quarterback for cash, I think buying up for Lamar would be a good stack. So I would put Lamar in there, and then I would put any of these players. I'm not saying play all of them together. I would probably do a skinny stack with Lamar. So Lamar, Zay Jones, what am I talking about? Zay Flowers, goodness. Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and who else was I thinking? Okay, so basically you choose one. Lamar Jackson with Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, or you can do a double stack with both of them, and then I would bring it back with Tyquan Thornton. That's who I would bring it back with. I don't think I spelled that right. Tyquan Thornton. There we go. So that's who I'd bring it back with. I think this is a pretty cheap stack, and has some really high projected points for not too much of your salary. So, but if you were to take out one of these players, you know what I mean? I think that would be totally fine. I'll put it back in there so I don't forget for later. Another stack that I think could be interesting, if Brock Purdy plays, which it looks like he's leaning to, I think that's a sneaky stack. Brock Purdy, you give him Christian McCaffrey because of the receiving game. And then you pick one wide receiver. I know that's where we're kind of nervous. We don't know if it's Pearsall. We don't know if it's Juwan Jennings. If either one of them playing. I feel like one will play, one will be out. We have to kind of wait and see. If one of them's out, though, Demarcus Robinson is an interesting choice because he is back from suspension, and I think he will get plugged right into the lineup. And then the player that I would bring it back with, I would bring it back with Brian Thomas. We have not seen a big game yet. I think this is the week we finally see Brian Thomas break out again and have that game that we have been looking for him to have. The other thing you can do, this game I think just won't be played as much as other games. You could switch this. So you could have Trevor Lawrence. I would keep Christian McCaffrey in there. And then you could do a skinny one, like just Brian Thomas, doom. Or, if you really wanted to, you could do Etienne as well. I think Travis Etienne is totally okay as a choice as well. So even if you wanted to play both running backs from that same game, I'm not against it. But you might leverage Christian McCaffrey out then at that point and put in, like Demarcus Robinson or somebody. Just different things to consider. Let's see, what else do I have? I think I wanted to do a Bears stack. So I got Caleb Williams because he's too cheap this week. And you will pair him with Roma Dunze and Colston Loveland being out. This is where it's interesting. You could either do Cole Kmet or you could throw in DJ Moore. Only reason I shy away from Kmet is because my bring back is really Brock Bowers. That's who I think is your best bet. And I don't really want to do a double tight end. But, if you did, it wouldn't be the worst thing because Kmet would be your tight end, and think of Brock Bowers as a wide receiver flex. That's not too shabby. I'm okay with that. However, I think your better option, if you went with Kmet, would then just be throw Ashton Jeanty in the mix as leverage off of those other elite running backs. So, those are just a couple ideas. My last one, I'm a little bit of a homer, but I really think you do a Marcus Mariota stack. You pick, you choose two of these three. So you have any of the running backs, whether that's Bill, Chris Rodriguez, or why am I blanking on his name right now? Oh, Jeremy McNichols, who had a big game. I think you could pick any of those three. You pick Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz. Bringing it back with, yeah, you guessed it, Darnell Mooney. But, yeah, any of the running backs would be fine. You could do Jeremy McNichols, who's, so cheap. Jakobi, Krosky, Merritt. Also pretty cheap. Honestly, when I'm looking at this, you got to go with Jakobi in that sit-up. The only way I would use maybe the other two is if Jakobi is ruled out because he has been on the injury report, but I think he's playing. Chris Rodriguez. Maybe Chris, because he got the starting snaps. It just so happened that Jeremy McNichols had a 60-yard touchdown last week. So maybe that's your huge leverage play. Once again, this is like a large field tournament. I don't know that I would play this in a small one. But those are some of my ideas. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying this. I am looking forward to putting more of these out. So keep an eye out. I think I'm going to have one out for the international game, the Dublin game. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be more of a showdown slate, so it's going to be a little bit more fun because we get into players that you would not play in any other format, but there's some nasty plays. So, yeah, enjoy. Good luck this week, and I'll see you soon.